My name is Rafael Barker, and I own a photography business. I'm self-employed. It's Rafael Barker Photography. I do portrait work, commercial headshots. I do work for fashion and editorial. I'm trying to get connected with boutiques and brands that actually make, I would say, pieces of clothing that I could help promote their brand. But I also do nonprofit photography, any kind of portrait work that you might need, event photography, things like that. I had gotten sick the day that Kobe Bryant passed away. I was actually at one of those 24-hour like healthcare places that you pay $100 for, and like they can give you a prescription or whatever. It was in Kanawha City. My roommate at the time had been traveling for a couple months, and he had been in LA, he'd been in Denver and Detroit. And so we thought that, or I did, that maybe I got the whatever it was then. Like they didn't call it COVID at that time yet because it was the end of January. They hadn't put that name on it. But I remember being in that doctor's office space and then seeing Kobe, all the news flash, and he had passed away. And then I started to recognize, okay, you could be tested for, what do they call it? Flu simplex A or simplex B or the other thing. And I don't know if I'd gotten COVID then or if it was just the flu. But after that, it really started to ramp up in West Virginia. And I think because I have friends in some of the bigger cities, I was getting some of the news, just like we all were, from, oh, New York is getting shut down, LA is getting shut down, X, Y, and Z. And that's really when I was just like, oh man, we're about to bunker down and we're gonna have to figure this out for all of us. COVID-19, I was one of those people who had to do that Google search to kind of track down that it wasn't just this made up thing and it wasn't this thing that was manufactured in a lab, you know, because I knew that it was a real issue. So for me, COVID-19, I think when I hear that, I hear of pain and suffering, caution. And being cautious is another thing I think of when I hear COVID-19. I personally have not lost anyone to COVID-19. I have friends and acquaintances who've had family members pass away. In my nuclear family, I was the only one, I believe, who contracted COVID, and that was after being COVID-free for 2 years. So that was only just recently, like in the last 6 months. But yeah, I mean, if you are in a crowded room and you look to your left and you look to your right, it's pretty likely that one of the three of you have had COVID or know someone that's had it. And even worse, may know someone who's passed away from it, especially those of us living in West Virginia. We have an older population, and like for myself, for example, I'm a little overweight, so I know that that's kind of a common thing in Appalachia. So we're more susceptible to potentially having getting COVID, and then maybe also B, having to deal with potentially negative impact from it. Maybe those cases where someone's asymptomatic may happen less frequently in a region like Appalachia. We're in almost year 3 now? I think that first year we were shut down. I've been doing photography for about 7 years now. And for a good portion of that, it was a hobby, and I did it on the side of my day job. Well, during 2020, I basically shut that hobby down because part of it was, we were isolating ourselves. And so the initial thing to do is, I'm not going to book anything if it's going to put me in direct contact with someone who could potentially have COVID or who's had COVID. And it's like any disease that you don't know that much about. At the very beginning, you try to kind of shelter yourself completely from it so that you don't put yourself in risk while you're gathering knowledge about what steps you can take. Once I knew, and I sought this information out, and I trusted, the healthcare and medical professionals. Once I had the information that, getting vaccinated is absolutely going to help you, and I got the opportunity to be vaccinated, I did. So like the day that a friend of mine messaged me and said, hey, we're hosting a vaccinations place. It was here in Charleston. I went from where I was, drove down, got the vaccine. And from that point forward, the next time when we got our booster, I got that. I even drove one of my neighbors so that they could also get vaccinated.
Okay, Rafael, describe your art.
I'd like to think that it's more high key with attention to light and shadow. I focus primarily on portraiture, so you're not going to see me as frequently shooting landscapes or shooting outdoor street photography or architecture. I'm really drawn to the human condition. So if I can have a subject sitting in front of me who is, let's say, a director for a nonprofit, and they want to have an image of them, of themselves, then for me it's like, how can I pull the humanity from the conversation I'm sharing with that person, so that they can say very definitively when they share that image with anyone else, this is truly who I am, this is what I represent, this is what I'm about. Regarding the work I do in studio, if I'm shooting someone with a really interesting outfit, then the question becomes, how can we really point to the outfit as the central starring figure? Also, I tend to feel like there's a real energy in motion and capturing the illusion of motion. Either if somebody's rising up, it's like either the rising up or the potential for the falling back down. So it's like that in-between moment of tension. I really like that. And I really am intrigued by, let's say you get a model who's moving in that way, but then their face is very stoic. That duality between the motion and then that tension of their face being very kind of stoic is an interesting element that I really like. For me specifically, creativity means that you are able to have a form of self-expression that you are able to own. And it's finding the way that you can best use yourself to convey what you believe to be true about the world. Whether that's imagery, whether that's illustration, whether that's poems, song, it's your heart that you're projecting outward. I think that's what creativity means to me. The biggest motivator with regard to my creative expression is inspiration. I've been moved by so many things in my life that were either viscerally like a visual or a sound or a color or a tone that has sparked that creative inspiration. When I have conversations with friends about COVID and its impact on my life and its impact on my creativity, something that I keep coming back to is disconnection from social media, from technology, and getting into public spaces again. Because we've been so isolated for so long that even just getting to walk out your door, put your feet in the grass, bare feet, or to feel the texture of the trees, or to have a conversation with a neighbor passing by with their dog feels so significant. So coping through COVID and having a creative outlet, it just really enhances each of those moments for me. Like, I go to the coffee shop and I'm one of those people who's very genuinely, how are you doing? Asking intentional questions. How are you? What are you working on? What's your day like? With the expectation that you're going to sit down and actually listen to what their response is. It's not going to be that passing, oh, hey, how are you doing? But you're not really asking, you're going to go sit down. That matters to me. And so as I navigate this space where we are all living through the COVID pandemic and we are all finding value in reconnection, taking that moment to be honest and present. And in our artwork, being honest within ourselves and what we're trying to accomplish, and being present by our within our surroundings so that inspiration can come to us in a genuine way. That's, for me, the best way that I can cope through COVID and this pandemic. Because again, we are a social creature, humans. We are social creatures by nature. Now, some of us may be more introverted, some of us may be more extroverted, or have a blend. But taking that time every day to kind of disconnect and sit within yourself and see, what are you on that spectrum? Which person are you? And then how can I honestly navigate spaces with other people as that version of myself?